It's a great day, sports world. What's up to all the sports lovers, haters, addicts, and fanatics out there? This is Larry Patterson coming to you for GT365. That's Game Time 365 Sports. Live here on the GTSN. That's the Game Time Sports Network. And today, you're watching 32 teams in 32 days. Philadelphia Eagles edition. We're moving our way to the NFC East now. This team was a little bit of not a little bit. They were a big disappointment last year. Started off 3-4, 3-4-1. Actually, they started out 0-2, and then when they the third game came along, and when they tied with Cincinnati, I knew this was going to be a pretty bad season here. Or at the time, I felt like it's going to take a while for this team to get it together. But once I saw that tie, it was done and over with. After that, they beat San Francisco on a Sunday night, which gave me life. Like, okay, all right, this team got to get it together. But then they went on to lose 2 straight, and then they won 2 straight, and then they went on to lose 4 straight, and then they ended the season 1-7 in their final 8 games. Ended the season 4-11-1. So a pretty big disappointment. Fired head coach Doug Peterson and his staff. They hired Nick Sirianni as the new head coach, who I think came from either second round or third round in this year's draft. But it could be a first in this year's draft or a second, all depending on Carson Wentz. And hopefully this Eagles team can get them a very high draft pick due to Mr. Wentz and his situation. He was injured during training camp. How that situation is going to come about, that remains to be seen and heard. Speaking of Mr. Wentz, he leaves Philadelphia throwing 16,811 yards in that little short span of time. I mean, Wentz was pretty good, and then the injuries kind of started to derail and everything like that. He had 113 touchdowns, 50 interceptions, a whole completion percentage of 62. So, I mean, nothing a lot to be bragging about, but those 18,000 yards and 50 touchdowns. I mean, he was on his way to a good career there in Philadelphia after being selected first overall or second overall, or the second quarterback behind Jared Goff. So with that being said, he's out. He's in Indy with a whole new team. This Philly team has to start over. And I'm a victim of saying that Philly was going to be pretty bad this year. I don't think they're going to be pretty bad. After the changes that they had, I don't think they're going to be pretty bad. I still think that they're going to be in an improvement stage, but I think that they're still going to be competitive, and they're still going to surprise a lot of teams. Maybe get some surprise wins. We will see, especially in the division that they play in, which is a very shaky, weird division. So we will see. But the key departures for this team, of course, we talked about Carson Wentz. Deshaun Jackson came over. Just as soon as you put him out there, it seems like he was on his way out. He consistently stayed hurt. Could not get him in multiple games. So that experiment is over. Alshon Jeffrey, which is another career derailed by injuries, came over from Chicago, played in Philly for a number of years, won him a title, and it just never got right after that. Jalen Hurts, he went to New England. Vinny Curry, he went somewhere. Defensive end, he was more of a role player. And Crayvon LeBlanc, he started some games for Philly, and he's more of a backup. But he's pretty solid too. But he's gone. Also, key additions for this team. Ryan Kerrigan coming over from Washington. Former pass rush specialist. Eric Wilson coming over from Minnesota. I think that's going to be a very, very, very valuable pickup right there. Joe Flacco. He could start some games depending on the other two quarterbacks, but I don't see anything special out of that. He's mainly a journeyman right about now. He's a former Super Bowl champion, but he's more of a journeyman right now. Anthony Harris, you grabbed him from Minnesota also, who was an outstanding safety. And then Gardner Minshew, who they picked up in a trade last week. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute because that is a quarterback that has been destined to go to another direction, since the Jaguars drafted Trevor Lawrence, and Minshew was not all that bad in his first season, his second season, but the stats tell you different. But he definitely needed a new scenery. I thought Minshew was going to be a kind of a surprise anyway, coming into Washington State 3 years ago. So on offense, this team was ranked 28th in the pass. That's not good. 3,327 yards just accumulated. In the run, they were ranked 9th though. Offensive, 2,027 yards. So you're in the top 10 in the run. They almost dead last in the league in the pass. On third downs, this team was ranked 28th. On fourth downs, this team was ranked 27th. And in the red zone, they were ranked 15th. So not all good numbers from that right there. Let's get into the offense, and starting with Joe Flacco, who was 0-4 last year. He played with the Jets in place of Sam Darnold. Mr. Flacco only completed 74 passes over 134 attempts, 864 yards. He had 6 touchdowns. Then you got Jalen Hurts, who's coming in, and Jalen he surprised me in the New Orleans game, and it's another game that he surprised me in. He went 77 for 148, 1,061 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. That's not good numbers. But he had 63 carries, 354 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And the special thing about him is that he can use his legs. So he went 1-3 in those contests, a 52 completion percentage. It's got to get better. He could be the starter. I don't know if they hadn't made a starter yet officially, but he's a part of the 53, and maybe they can use him in some sub packages and wildcat formations and have him throwing the ball in some formations and stuff like that. But I don't really see him being a franchise quarterback in this league. I kind of had some hope for him, but nah. The offense would mainly have to gravitate to him, and their line just wasn't good enough last year. I don't know if it would be good enough this year due to some of the injuries that's going on over there, but we will see. Also, Gardner Minshew. Now, Mr. Minshew, in 2019, he completed 60% of his passes. He was 6-6, 285 for 470, 3,271 yards, 21 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. That's when the Minshew Mania came about. They didn't go to the playoffs that year, but Minshew Mania came about with the whole short shorts and the whole mullet situation going on, and I liked it. It was basically saying, okay, well, they might have a franchise quarterback who Minshew was drafted in the 6th round. So, sometimes you find value out of players that fall that low. And I thought maybe it could turn around for him. He could turn that whole program around. But that did not happen, and he ended up getting traded for a pick in 2020 last year. He shared some starts. He went 1-7, 216 for 327, 2,259 yards, 16 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Now, the 5 interceptions, the 16 touchdowns, I mean, it looks good on paper because, you didn't throw that many interceptions, but it was also about decision making, ball placement, and all that other good stuff. Line kind of derailed, so he had to deal with that. And then he, in 2020, last year, he had a 66 completion percentage. So, like I said, the 5 interceptions doesn't look all that bad, but it's all about the other decisions that, the 5 interceptions, but it was all about the decision making and, the line helping him out. Now, one good thing about Minshew is that he does have good pocket awareness. He will escape the pocket. He will take off. He's not a runner, but he will take off and do whatever he needs to do to get that first down and to gain yards. So, if I'm banking on anybody to win a starting position in this group, it's definitely Gardner Minshew. And that's one of the reasons why they bought him over in the first place. Running back position, Miles Sanders had a pretty okay season last year. He played 12 games. He started 11. He had 164 carries, 867 yards, 6 touchdowns. If he had played those other games, he probably would have cracked 1,000 yards. 52 targets, 28 catches for 197 yards. He's probably being dubbed as a starter. Although I think Kenneth Gainwell, who's a rookie, could come in and take some of those snaps and be very effective because he was at Memphis, and hopefully that style of play can transition into the NFL. Jason Huntley going to year number 2. Boston Scott, who had 80 carries, 374 yards and a touchdown. He also had 36 targets, 25 catches, 212 yards, and 1 touchdown. That is your running back position. The wide receiver spots, you got Jalen Reagor, the rookie last year, played 11 games. He started 11. 54 targets, so he missed some time. 54 targets, 31 catches, 396 yards, 1 touchdown. Not a good showing, and he was one of my players, my second-year receivers to watch for this season because of last season, just because of the 396 yards. I definitely feel like he would do better this year, especially with the speed that they got over there. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, in 2019, he had 22 targets, 10 catches, 169 yards, 1 touchdown. In 2020, he played 8 games. He didn't start any. He had 8 targets, 4 catches for, I want to say, 85 yards. He missed some time. And don't forget, this same Philadelphia Eagles team took J.J. Arcega-Whiteside over DK Metcalf in the draft a few years ago. One of the more questionable decisions for this franchise. Devontae Smith, the rookie, they call him the Slim Reaper, from Alabama. He comes in 2019 at Alabama. He had 68 catches for 1,256 yards, 14 touchdowns. Last year, when they won the championship, he had 117 catches for 1,856 in the yards and 23 touchdowns. And maybe the Slim Reaper can hopefully transition that into the NFL. He's small, but you know what? My man got heart, and we'll see how that goes. Michael Walker going into year number 2. Greg Ward, who was a surprise a couple years ago, he had 79 targets last year, 419 yards, 6 touchdowns, played 16 games. He started 10. And then you got Quez Watkins, who was also drafted last year. 13 targets, 7 catches, 106 yards, 1 touchdown. Sample size, but I think he had a couple plays during the preseason where he did pretty good. So hopefully that can transition to the regular season. I like Quez Watkins. Tight ends. You got Jason Kroon going to year number 3. You got Zach Ertz, played 11 games, started 11 games. He has 72 targets, 36 catches, 335 yards, 1 touchdown, over 6,000 yards in his career. So, but he's got 1,000 yard season, and that came in 2018. So, man, there was kind of a rumor report that he could be traded. He still could be traded for some picks, especially with a young team like this. You put Zach Ertz in a winning situation or whatever, but you can definitely accumulate picks for this guy. He's still an effective tight end in this league. And then you got Dallas Goedert, who, would be your number 1 if Ertz left. Mr. Goddard, 65 targets, 46 catches, 524 yards, 3 touchdowns in 2020. In 2019, he had 87 targets, 58 catches, 607 yards, and 5 touchdowns. So Dallas Goedert is definitely one of those players who can definitely find the end zone. Definitely versatile. So could be one of the best tight end tandems in the league if they decide to keep Ertz or one of them. But my thing is Ertz will probably be the odd man out. Tyree Jackson, who's a rookie, and then Jack Stoll, who's also a rookie. That's your tight end group. Landon Dickerson in the offensive line, who's a rookie. Jason Kelsey, who had a 62 pass block grade and a 79 run block grade according to PFF. Brandon Brooks, who missed all of last season, going into year number 10. Nate Herbig, who had a 72 pass block grade and a 69 run block grade. Definitely somebody that improved and took over for injuries. So shout out to Nate Herbig. Isaac Somalu, 77 pass block grade and a 52 run block grade. So that can get better. Andre Dillard, who missed 2020 also, and he's got a knee sprain going on right now. Questionable on if he's going to be playing against Atlanta in about a week or two soon, week 1. So Jack Driscoll played 11 games. He started 4. Going to year number 2, Lane Johnson started 7 games. He played 7 games. Going to year number 9, Jordan Mailata, a 67 pass block grade and a 68 run block grade from last year. And then Brett Toth going into year number 3. That is your offense for the Philadelphia Eagles. For the defense, you got Derek Barnett, who had 6.5 sacks in 2019, and he had 5.5 sacks in 2020. Now with this defense, though, they were ranked 15th, and they gave up 3,798 yards in the pass. They gave up 2,012 yards in run defense, which ranked 23rd. So not a good defense. And their defense really this year, if you look at it on paper, it's got some potential and it's definitely got talent on there. But I don't think that they're really scaring anybody over there either. On third downs, they were ranked 7th. Defensively, they were ranked 3rd on 4th downs. And in the red zone, they were ranked 26th. So that is your Philadelphia Eagles defense as far as the numbers wise. So back to the defensive line. We talked about Derek Barnett, Brandon Graham, who had 8.5 sacks and 30 pressures in 2019. He's bringing 8.5. He brought 8.5 sacks in 2020 and 29 pressures. So he's still a very elite defender in this league. Teron Jackson, who's a rookie. Ryan Kerrigan coming over from Washington, 13 sacks in 2016 and 2018. My man took a dip, though. He's got 5.5 sacks in the last 2 years. And both of those years, he had 5.5 sacks. So I mean, yes, 5.5 sacks, but it's not old Ryan Kerrigan. And hopefully, we'll see that Shawn Michaels sack celebration later on this year. Josh Sweat had career highs, 38 tackles. He had 6 sacks. Fletcher Cox, he had 6.5 sacks last year. He's stepping into year 10. He's still a very, very effective defender. Javon Hargrave, one of the better interior defenders in this league. He had 4.5 sacks last year, 17 pressures, 38 tackles. T.Y. McGill going to year number 7. Milton Williams, who's a rookie. You got Marlon Tupuolotu, also a rookie. So that's your defensive line. In the linebacker spot, you got Sean Bradley going to year number 2. TJ Edwards going to year number 3. TJ Edwards had 2 sacks last year, 18 blitzes, 70 total tackles. So TJ Edwards is pretty good, man. And he's going to get better this year. Patrick Johnson, a rookie. Alex Singleton, who I also love. I also love Alex Singleton. He had 36 blitzes last year, 120 total tackles, 2 sacks. Jannard Avery, who's a 4th-year player. Davion Taylor, a 2nd-year player. Eric Wilson coming over from Minnesota, who had 75 blitzes, 10 pressures, 3 sacks, 122 total tackles. He missed 17 tackles, though, so you definitely got to work on that. But you're definitely getting somebody who's going to get after that ball. 122 tackles says a lot. Probably be the leading tackler this year. And then Joe Osman going into year number 2. For the cornerback group, Steven Nelson coming over from Pittsburgh going into year number 7. And Steven Nelson is a quiet, good corner. In 2018, he was targeted 115 times with 59 completions against him. That gave you a 51%. In 2019, he had 74 targets against him with 37 balls caught against him for 50%. So those numbers staying in the 50s. That's pretty good. In 2020, with Pittsburgh, he had 2 interceptions. He had 9 pass deflects. He had 48 tackles. He was targeted 98 times, completed against for 57 times. They gave you a 58%. So Steven Nelson is pretty solid, man. Coming over from Pittsburgh. Hopefully that he can transition. But most of that comes from TJ Watt and Bud Dupree being on the line and actually shoring up things, making the quarterback make bad decisions. So it doesn't even look like it doesn't even look like the corner is really doing any work, because you're up front is so versatile and so fast that they get into the quarterback that it makes the back corners look good, like Joe Hayden and like a Steven Nelson. And so we'll see. We'll see about Steven Nelson. But the numbers look good. Avonte Maddox, who had 75 targets for 46 passes completed against him for 61%. 2020, he had 49 with a 33 completions against him for 67%. Not flashy, but Avonte Maddox is pretty solid anyway. Zach McPherson, who's a rookie. Just Josiah Scott going into year number 2. Darius Slay, who had an interception last year. He had 8 interceptions in 2017 when he was in Detroit. He had 90 targets last year. He had a 69 completion percentage. Been 69 completions against him for a 76%, and that was like his highest. He just came over to his first year was in Philly last year, so That was not a good first year in Philly. In 2018, he had 94 targets against him, 44 completions against him, 46%. That was 2018. In 2019, he had 93 targets against him with 52 completions against him, for 55%. So hopefully Darius Slay can go back to old Darius Slay this year. It was a bad year for him last year. And you got Obi Melifonwu going to year number 3. Obi Melifonwu going to year number 3. At the safety spot, you got Marcus Epps going to year number 3. Ant Harris coming over from Minnesota, 104 tackles, 6 interceptions in 2019. He was 36 target. He was targeted 36 times. Opponents completed 21 passes against him for 58%. And then you got Rodney McLeod going into year number 10, 29 targets, 14 completed against him for 48%, 66 tackles last year. He had 21 blitzes also. Kayvon Wallace going into year number 2, and then Blake Countless going to year number 5. That completes your safety room. And at the kicker spot, Jake Elliott, who inside the 20s, he was 1 for 3. Inside the 30s, he was 6 for 6. Inside the 40s, he was 5 for 5. And 50 plus yards, he was 2 for 5. So not a good year for Jake Elliott. He went 14-19, 73 field goal percentage. That is a career low for the kid. But Jake will do better, hopefully, this year. And then you got Aaron Sipos going to year number 2 as the punter. Rick Lovato as the long snapper. So that is your 53-man roster. Going over the rookies, you got Devontae Smith, wide receiver out of Alabama. Landon Dickerson, center out of Alabama. Milton Williams, defensive tackle out of Louisiana Tech. Zach McPherson, cornerback out of Texas Tech. Got him in round number 5. And round number 4 and round number 5, you got Kenneth Gainwell, who, if he stays the course, he can be a very, very good guy. Very, very good running back in this league. Memphis is producing major talent. Check Antonio Gibson from Washington. Marlon Tupelotu, defensive tackle out of USC. I watched some film on him, man. He gets after it. Taron Jackson, defensive end out of Coastal Carolina. Jacoby Stevens, safety out of LSU, who was cut. And then Patrick Johnson. Well, he might be on the practice squad. And then Patrick Johnson, outside linebacker out of Tulane, drafted in round number 7 for the first 5 games for this squad. At Atlanta, San Francisco, at Dallas, that's early, Kansas City, and at Carolina. So at the Falcons, 49ers, at Dallas, Chiefs, and at the Panthers. That's a pretty tough schedule right there. But all in all, do I see this team making the playoffs? No, but it could happen. It very much well could happen for this football team. You just never know about the level of talent until you get on the field. It means nothing on paper. It just looks good or it looks bad on paper. But once you get it on the field, we'll see. Just like I said, it's a rough division. So I think it's anybody's for the taking. This is Larry Patterson for GT365. That's Game Time 365 Sports, live here on the GTSN. That's the Game Time Sports Network. And until then,